Welcome to the Fourth and Long Fantasy Football Show with Corey and Justin. Here they are, the Fourth and Long Fantasy Brothers.
Welcome to episode 6 of the Fourth and Long Fantasy Football Show. My name is Corey, and I am here with my actual brother, Justin.
Hello, this is Justin.
All right, episode 6, here we come. Justin, before we get started, let's go over the news we just got in the past week, which is saying, hey, guess what? Training camps are expected to start up on time. Your thoughts on that?
Good news. I mean, it's definitely a step in the right direction. I think this whole season we're going to approach it kind of cautiously, right? Tiptoeing around it. But that's definitely the right step in the direction that we need to be getting to. I'm looking forward to football.
Yeah, me too. Justin, is there any other news from the past week that you'd kind of like to get into right now?
So breaking news came out on Sunday night from the New England Patriots signing quarterback Cam Newton to a 1-year incentive-laden contract. Interesting signing for the New England Patriots. I think we all assumed that the Patriots were going to go into the season with Stidham as their quarterback. Cam's an interesting signing. I mean, the dude was he was lighting the league on fire back when he first came into the NFL. We forget that he's a Heisman winner. He was one of the first players ever to have 4,000 passing yards and 500 rushing yards in the same season. I mean, this guy is just, if he's right, he's right. And if there's any coach I think that can get the most out of Cam, it's probably Bill Belichick. Corey, what are your thoughts on Cam and the impact of the skill players here?
Well, if there's anything that we know as Patriots fans, it's that we know nothing about the Patriots roster and the starting lineup. So I'm going to say that let's wait to see how the depth chart shakes out. I think, you and I were texting literally the night this came out. And I think one of the first things I said to you is, look, I wouldn't be surprised if when they're cutting down to 53, if Cam Newton is one of those cuts. So you just never know with the Patriots. You have no idea. I mean, this seems like a prove-it deal, but I think it's even going to be a prove-it camp. So I'm not gonna jump the gun personally on what it's going to be, but it's definitely going to be fun to monitor. Justin, anything else that you want to get into?
Hey, wanted to talk a little bit about the recent news around potentially the signing of Antonio Brown, return to the NFL. Was kind of curious, Corey, if we do see AB sign this offseason, where would you put him in your wide receiver ranks for 2020?
Well, it obviously depends a lot on where he lands, if he lands somewhere. For now, it's going to be relatively low, no matter where he ends up signing. What ended up happening to Antonio Brown last year actually got pretty sad on a personal level for him. But I can't trust that he's completely gotten over sort of whatever he was going through. And I don't know if I'm willing to take that risk. I'm usually willing to take on injury risk, but I don't know if I'm willing to take that on. At a certain point, he'll have value to me, but I just can't see it being in the top 25 or 30 for me. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would probably say that, if he does in fact sign somewhere, whether it be with the Ravens or they're also kind of saying the Seahawks could be a potential destination. I mean, it obviously will depend on where he lands, but if he is back in the NFL, I'd probably slot him in as a wide receiver too, with upside for more. I'd probably put him, after the top 10 or 12 guys, maybe in the realm of like where Allen Robinson, Cortland Sutton, Tyler Lockett are currently. I get it though. It's been out of football for a year, but the talent just doesn't go away. I think I'd take the risk if he was back in the league.
So there are those guys like Dez Bryant who have been hovering around saying that they would love to make a comeback. But the last time we saw Dez Bryant, he wasn't all that appealing from a fantasy aspect. But the last time we saw Antonio Brown, oh my God, he was still so good, still so talented. So yeah, at some point it would be worth the risk to me. But it's just, I don't know if I'd be fully convinced that he's gotten over sort of the personal dilemmas that he was dealing with last year.
Yeah, purely speculative right now at this point, right? I mean, it's possible he may not ever be back in the NFL. He may not re-sign. So it's always good to speculate, though. I think he's a great player still. Maybe not so great of a person, but great player still. And I'll take that risk if he's back in the NFL.
Completely understand that. So, Justin, you ready to get into the show?
Get into it.
All right, then. Let's get to it.
On today's show,
Justin, I am so excited for our next 2 episodes. It is time to play the game that we know as the car ride to Maine, something we created a couple years back.
Yeah, Corey and I have some extended family up in Maine, and for 2 straight years, we found ourselves making the 6 to 7 hour trek north about this time of year. And to take up the time, we came up with a nice little game.
That's right. Now, what we do in this game is we will go through every team in the NFL. and we will establish 3 specific fantasy players from every team. Those 3 players are, number 1, the team's fantasy MVP, which is the best value player you will get. Not essentially the highest scoring fantasy player, because then our list would probably just be filled with a lot of quarterbacks, but the one who will return the best fantasy value. And yes, that's up to your interpretation, but at the end of the year, we kind of understand what that means. Number 2, we're going to go over the team's fantasy LVP, which is a little bit easier to understand, right? It's the player that will return the least amount of fantasy value based on where they are currently being drafted. And player number 3, the team's fantasy sleeper, which is the player not currently being drafted or being drafted very, very late and will return some nice value.
And throughout this process, Corey and I will be alternating and taking turns as we go division by division. This week, we will do every team in the AFC, and then on next week's show, we'll be going through every team in the NFC.
That's right. And Justin, this is a fast and quick-paced show. There's going to be a lot of information in a short amount of time, but this will be a show that is just filled with fantasy gold. Are you ready, Justin?
Sounds good to me, man. I'm ready.
It's time for the car ride to Maine.
So, Justin, you'll start us off. We're going to work our way through every division, and you'll get us going in the AFC West. Leading things off are our Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs.
So for the Kansas City Chiefs, the MVP I'm going to select is going to be Patrick Mahomes. He's destined to be the best quarterback in the league for probably the next decade, probably the next 15 years potentially. I love Patrick Mahomes. Kansas City's LVP is going to be Sammy Watkins. I'm just done with this guy at this point. He's in a situation where I feel like anyone can succeed, right? You put any wide receiver in the Kansas City offense, they're probably going to end up being successful, and he just hasn't done it. I'm done with Sammy Watkins. For Kansas City sleeper, I'm going to go with Mecole Hardman. I've touted him before. Mahomes had 153.9 passer rating targeting Hardman last year. There's reports out there that the Chiefs want to add someone to take punt return duties away from Hardman, which should afford him more opportunities on the offense. Man, I'm buying Hardman everywhere. Go get him now, especially if you're playing in Dynasty.
Fair enough there, Justin, right? I don't think there's anything too extreme with those picks. We're starting off safe here, but that should be expected when you're talking about the reigning champs. So next up, Justin, we have the Denver Broncos. What do you got?
Yeah, so for Denver, it was a little difficult to come up with this list because I like the offense in totality, but I'll start with my MVP, and that's going to be Courtland Sutton. I think the addition of Jerry Jeudy will actually help Sutton a lot. I see bona fide wide receiver 1 traits in Sutton, similar to a guy like Kenny Golladay. Now, the Denver LVP, I'm going to go with Royce Freeman. Now, with Melvin in the fold, this is more of a dynasty take, I guess you could say. With Melvin in the fold and Phillip Lindsay still in as a weapon on the offense, I just don't see Royce having a significant role at all in this offense. He's an easy fade and an easy choice for LVP on the Denver Broncos. And then my sleeper, I'm going to go with the tight end, Noah Fant. The guy was one of the top-rated tight ends coming out of college last year. He didn't do much as a rookie, but really what rookie tight end has outside of Evan Ingram over the last couple of years, I can see him jumping into the top 10 by season's end.
Okay. Well, I'm probably with the audience here and thinking that Freeman is an interesting choice as LVP. I mean, you definitely did sort of say that this is more of a dynasty take, but, you know, at least for this year, he doesn't seem to have really any value. So I feel like he's not really being drafted. But you know what? At least, at the very least, it's hard to disagree with you there, Justin. Next up is Las Vegas, Justin. Tell me about the Raiders.
Yeah, so Las Vegas Raiders, I'm going to pick the MVP here for the Raiders. It's going to be Josh Jacobs. You know, I really want Josh Jacobs to be more involved in the passing game. If he can get to that 50-catch plateau, which, you know, typically signifies an RB1, he's going to be that surefire RB1. I like him as a back-end RB1 this year, and he should be the best fantasy player on the Raiders in 2020. Now, my Las Vegas Raider LVP, I'm going to go with Henry Ruggs. Now, don't get me wrong. I get it, right? He was the first rookie wide receiver drafted number 12 overall. I think he flops in year 1. Carr can't throw the ball down the field. I'm fading Ruggs completely this year in redraft. And then my sleeper, which kind of tails into that one nicely, is Hunter Renfrow from the Vegas Raiders. I like this slot dude a lot this year. I think he'll be a PPR league maven in his second year. And I think anywhere between 75 to 85 catches are definitely in sight. And you could essentially get him for free right now. He's a guy I'm targeting late in most leagues.
Bold move with the Ruggs Renfro prediction, and I like it. Renfro gained trust as the season moved forward. You could see that in both his numbers and watching Raiders games. I'll take him over the big play guy of Ruggs as well, so nice call. Finishing up the division, Justin, we have the Los Angeles Chargers, MVP, LVP, and sleeper. What do you got?
Yeah, for the Los Angeles Chargers here, this was another tough one in my mind because I like the talent, right? I like all the talent and the skill players they have. For the MVP, I'm going to go with Keenan Allen, wide receiver. He's shaking his injury-prone tag. You probably remember back a couple years ago, people were saying Keenan Allen just can't stay healthy. I'm fading him. Well, he's been very reliable the last number of years. He's the best weapon the Chargers have at this point. He's a bit undervalued. I think he's going in like the 5th or 6th round at this point. I'll take that value today. The LVP for the Chargers, I'm going to go against the grain here, and I'm going to go with Austin Eckler, running back. Now, I just don't see the receiving ceiling like there was last year. We know that Phillip Rivers, who was the previous quarterback of the Chargers, loves to dump off a lot. With Ty God and with Justin Herbert in there, you just don't know what the offense is going to look like totally. I see regression. I'm not a fan of Eckler this year. And then for my sleeper for the Chargers, I'm going to go with Tyrod Taylor. Ty God, as we like to call him. I just don't know if Justin Herbert sees the field this year. And if he doesn't, I like Ty God as a sleeper at the quarterback position. Look at his weapons that he has, right? With Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Hunter Henry, Austin Eckler. He's got a really good group of skill players. I'll take Ty God as one of my late quarterbacks this year.
I like your LVP there, Justin, because the stat being thrown around right now is how Eckler has had little success when given a high workload. I think it's something like in games where he's had over 15 carries and 15 touches, it's a very, very low efficiency that he's put forward. So, I mean, I'm with you. He's best as a compliment, and right now it doesn't look like they have someone else in there to compliment him. Maybe we're wrong, but you're paying top dollar for Eckler right now, who could be a potential lemon. So I'm with you.
Okay, Corey, on deck, we've got the AFC South. We're going to start off with the division winners, the Houston Texans.
All right, here we go. My turn, and I'm going to start off with Houston's MVP, and I'm going to go with David Johnson. Look, they have to use him. They know what they did with this trade. They're going to have to take advantage if it meant saying bye-bye to Nuke Hopkins. He'll put up RB1 numbers, and he's going to have the job, which leads me to my Houston LVP, which is the other Johnson boy. It's Duke Johnson. Look, see Johnson, David here, right? He will be drafted in most drafts, but he's going to be on the waiver wire soon after because I see this as David Johnson's full-time job. And my Houston sleeper here is going to be Jordan Akins. He's a third-year pro, and I feel like he's going to leap over Fells and become a streamable option at tight end.
Wow, all good calls there on the Houston side. I agree with all of them. I like your DJ call especially. I talked about the fact that I like him this year in Houston. He's the cheapest he's been in years. I'm buying at that price. All right, Corey, next up, we've got the Titans. What are your thoughts on Tennessee this year?
Justin, this is not a fun one to do, but I'm going to dive right into it. All right, here we go. We got Tennessee's MVP. I'm going to go with Jonnu Smith. Look, I don't think the Titans are going to work at all this year. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire up the safety blanket. I think he'll be a streamable tight end. I think he even has a chance to be that guy that you see being started week after week in most leagues on some team in your league. Which leads me to my Tennessee LVP. Now, look, I really wanted to put A.J. Brown here as well as this person I'm going to say, but my LVP right now is Derrick Henry, and I've been saying this on a couple of shows now, right? I think both Henry and A.J. Brown are going to produce a whole tier down from their value. I see Henry being an RB2, Brown being a wide receiver 3. And given Henry's high cost right now, I'm going to say Henry's going to be the LVP. My sleeper, Justin, I feel sick, but I'm going to go with Corey Davis here. Look, is his talent really gone? I mean, he's undrafted right now, so I don't know. Why not?
Tennessee's a hard team to pick this year. That's for sure. I think we've talked in previous episodes about how we're kind of collectively fading the Titans offense this year. One of the interesting picks that you had there was Corey Davis as a sleeper, right? The first round pedigree just doesn't go away overnight, right? The guy was a top 5 pick. Is Corey Davis following the Devontae Parker path, and are we waiting another year for that 5th-year breakout? I don't know. I like the call. All right, the Colts here next. Lots of upside in this offense with Phillip Rivers at the helm. Great offensive line, lots of weapons. Who do you like and not like in Indy, Corey?
Yeah, this one was a fun one. I actually really enjoyed doing this one. I'm going to start off with the MVP, which is going to be T.Y. Hilton. Look, if you tell me he's healthy, I'll tell you he's a high-end wide receiver too with Rivers, and at the very least, he's going to be a wide receiver too. I see potential wide receiver one here if he can stay healthy and on the field. My Indy LVP is going to be Marlon Mack. Now, I actually like Mac, but do you remember Zach Stacy in St. Louis? Do you remember Carlos Hyde in Cleveland, right? These are situations where highly touted rookies ended up coming in situations where the starters seemed pretty good. Look, Mac will have deceptive value for the first 4 weeks, but then bye-bye. It's going to look a lot like Nick Chubb did last year in Cleveland and the year that Todd Gurley took over in St. Louis. Now, my Indy sleeper is going to be Jack Doyle. How is he not being taken higher here, right? The days of Eric Ebron are gone. I really like the possibility of Jack Doyle.
I like the call on Jack Doyle a lot. I'm not afraid of Trey Burton. I've already talked about that. Ebron's gone, as you mentioned. And we all know Rivers' affinity for tight ends, right? Look at the past. He's my favorite late-round tight end at this point. Corey, finish it up with the Jags.
Yeah, so I'm going to start off with the MVP here. This was not a great team to analyze. I didn't have a lot of fun with this one, so I'm going to go with the safe MVP bet here, and I'm going to go with Leonard Fournette. Look, I think they're going to use him a ton. I think he has a positive touchdown trend here. He's got that low-end RB1 in sight, and he's not being drafted that way, right? He's being drafted as a low-end kind of RB2 or mid-round RB2. So I like the Fournette idea of him being a low-end RB1. My Jacksonville LVP, so least valuable player, is actually going to be DJ Chark. Now, this was tough because I actually really like Chark's talent. He just needs a lot to go right for him to hold the wide receiver 2 value he's floating around on draft day. Now, my Jacksonville sleeper, if I think Chark may not produce, I think there's a real good chance that you might see D.D. Westbrook come back. Now, Westbrook was considered the presumptive number 1 guy when we were drafting at this time last year until Chark took over. But look, I still believe, right? He's not being drafted right now, D.D., and I see there being flex value at the very least.
Man, your MVP choice there in Fournette, he better get that positive TD trend this year because he's not getting 100 targets this year, especially with Chris Thompson in the fold. I will say, though, he is all but guaranteed 300 touches in this offense, and I like his value this year.
All right, Justin, halfway there, and you are up. AFC North time. Start off with those exciting Ravens. What do you see in Baltimore this year?
Yeah, so I like the Ravens offense a lot this year. They've got a lot of great weapons. I love their offensive scheme. I'm going to go with the MVP here for the Ravens as Hollywood Brown. Ton of value currently. I think his ADP right now is kind of his floor. I see top 10 upside, honestly, if things go right, if he can stay healthy. And you can't say that about most dudes being drafted as wide receiver 3s or wide receiver 4s. Now, the LVP for Baltimore, this was really tough because, like I said, I like the offense as a whole. And I feel sick saying this. This is super tough. But I'm going to go with Mark Ingram as the Baltimore Ravens LVP. I know that's not going to be a popular take. He's on the wrong side of 30. He's got that narrative working for him. And I just like Dobbins a lot this year. And that leads me right into my sleeper, and that is going to be J.K. Dobbins. Listen, I love the talent. It might take a while, but the talent will show, right? Cream always rises to the top. He's very talented. I could see a Kamara Ingram sort of situation from a few years ago in New Orleans where both were great options. I'm buying Dobbins at his current price, especially in Dynasty.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to your MVP take here, and I'm going to say that I love Hollywood. He trends positive this year given the historically low wide receiver involvement from last year. I disagree on the Ingram take, though, right? He was the RB8 last year, being valued in the 20s because of Dobbins. I see value, but I get it, okay? I still can't believe, Justin, that the Steelers finished 8-8. Kudos to Mike Tomlin. What do you think, Justin?
So, yeah, the Steelers are another offense that I like a lot this year. I'll start with the MVP for the Steelers, and I'll go with Juju Smith-Schuster. His value is really great this season. We've talked a lot about how Pittsburgh skill players are being valued as if last year is the norm. Big Ben is back. The offense should hum once again. I'm buying Juju at his current price. Now, the LVP, I'm going to take a different sort of spin on this LVP here for Pittsburgh. I'm going to go with James Conner as the LVP for the Steelers. I'm going to play the COVID card here, okay? The narrative around his compromised health history makes me concerned that we may not see James Conner play this season. I know that's a bold take.
Yeah.
I'm going to call it there. And then my sleeper for the Steelers, I'm going to go with Eric Ebron, tight end, along with Jack Doyle, who we talked about earlier. Ebron is one of my favorite late-round tight ends this year. He's free right now, and he's less than 2 years removed from scoring double-digit touchdowns. I'm buying Ebron this year.
Justin, great point about the COVID situation with Connor. I hadn't even thought of that, right? That could derail an immunocompromised player like him immediately. So great point. The Browns have some post-hype appeal here, Justin. What are your thoughts for Cleveland?
Yeah, so Cleveland, they've got a new head coach coming in, new offensive scheme with Stefanski and as head coach. I'm going to take the MVP pick here for Cleveland Browns as Odell Beckham Jr. Man, the value is there this year, right? This is the cheapest he's been since his rookie year when he was essentially free and he came on late in the season. The talent is not gone, folks. He's too damn good. OBJ all day. My LVP, I'm going to go with Jarvis Landry, OBJ's partner here in the wide receiver room. Again, I'm going to go back to the Stefanski offense. It will result in probably less passing attempts, more rushing attempts, which leads to less targets for Landry, who really reaps the benefits of having a high target share. And OBJ is just better than Landry in general. I'm fading Jarvis this year. And then my sleeper for the Cleveland Browns, I'm going to go with Nick Chubb's running mate, Kareem Hunt, as the sleeper for the Cleveland Browns. I think he has standalone value in PPR leagues this year already. He's got league-winning upside if something happens to Chubb. I like Kareem Hunt as a sleeper.
Justin, isn't OBJ as a 4th or 5th rounder sound absurd this year?
It's insane. The talent's not gone, man.
And last but certainly not least in this group is Cincy. The Bengals could also be exciting to watch this year with a rookie quarterback in place. Your thoughts, Justin?
Yeah, I agree. I think Burrow as a whole will kind of rise the offense in general. My MVP for the Bengals is going to be Joe Mixon. Right, not much to see here. Mixon is just special. All right, so for the LVP for the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm going to go back to our last episode of Complete Bus. A.J. Green. This dude is done, man. I'm just done with A.J. Green in general. And then the sleeper for Cincinnati, I'm going to go with John Ross. Right, Joe Burrow was one of the most efficient deep ball passers in the NCAA last year. John Ross still has that first-round pedigree. He showed lots of promise, and he's free. I could see wide receiver 2 upside this season.
Justin, Mixon is fixin' for a big year in my eyes. A top 5 running back next year is looking better and better every day.
Corey, finish it up with the AFC East. You get to start with the homer prediction as we're both New England fans. What do you think of a very different Patriots situation this year?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about how we see potential value here, and I'm going to start off with New England's MVP, and that's Julian Edelman. Now, this seems like the safe bet, but look, assuming we're talking PPR here, he may be a volume wide receiver 1 without a doubt, right? Especially if things aren't so clean in New England this year, I could see a lot of targets coming his way, and just based on that volume, could see wide receiver 1 value here. My New England LVP, and this one hurts me because I was a big fan of him coming in, is Sony Michel. Look, he's had another offseason of cleanup surgery, and I just haven't seen it. You know, that it factor where you watch him and you go, wow, he's got it. He runs like he's 31 years old. I feel like I'm watching Frank Gore, which leads into my New England sleeper, which is actually Rex Burkhead. Now, Justin, we've watched the Patriots, right, as fans, and since Burkhead has been on the team, it seems like they really want him to get a decent part of that job. The problem is health. Right? Now, assuming he's healthy, it might be really fun to own Rex Burkhead. If not, I think Damian Harris could sub out for Burkhead here pretty easily.
Yeah, I think it's always smart to invest in a stock when it's at its lowest and really reap the benefits as it climbs. I think the New England offense is the cheapest it's been in decades. I'm buying for sure. All right, how about the presumptive division winners here, Corey, the Buffalo Bills?
Yeah, so the MVP has to be the most talented guy on the field, and to me, that's Stephon Diggs. Look, in my rank, he's a wide receiver 1, which I know is going against the grain. I see consistency in a player who has never had that in his career, and that is really, really exciting. My LVP, this goes back to last episode, and it goes to Josh Allen, right? QB7 is just too high for me. I don't think he'll be useless. He'll just be a streamer quarterback. And so therefore QB7 is just too high. He's just going to be that streamer for the needy team in your league. In my Buffalo sleeper, and this one was tough to pick out for me, but I'm going to go Cole Beasley here. And listen, you're not going to hear an argument for Beasley on this show from me. Just know that he's going to be started against you in week 11. You'll feel awesome about it, and you'll think it's a guaranteed win. And then he's going to put up 18 on you, and you'll lose by 6 that week.
Yeah, man, I hear you. Don't you hate those situations?
Yeah, we do, but that's fantasy, right?
It is. Man, I love your Diggs call, though, right? I'm always betting on talent. He's just too good, right? And he's so cheap this year. I don't get it. The dude had his second straight 1,000-yard receiving season, and he had less than 100 targets. That's just insane. I love Diggs. How about those Jets, Corey?
This wasn't fun, but let's get started with their MVP. I'm going to go with Le'Veon Bell here. I have to hope the offense can get a bit better than it was last year. It really was not fun to watch last year. And look, if it does get better, he's a high-end RB2, and that seems almost guaranteed with that RB1 value potentially coming back. My New York Jets LVP, this was really, really tough because, current Jets don't really have a lot of value right now. So I'm just going to go with Chris Herndon. So I actually don't mind the New York Jets situation this year in terms of where players are being valued. But I see Herndon, who's going as kind of a streamer tight end for some people. Look, I just think those people who are trying to make Herndon a thing will be disappointed yet again. Some will draft him as that streamer, but he should be permanently in your free agency. And last but not least is my New York Jets sleeper. And this is someone who I really have just always liked their value. And this is Jamison Crowder. All right. I've always really liked the talent. It's like I said for Edelman, if things can go right for New York, even just a little bit, be wary of how good this guy could be.
Yeah, Corey, I agree with you, man. I don't really like the Jets much this year. I think I'm only really looking at Le'Veon Bell if he can be my maybe RB2 or RB3. That's really it. All right, last AFC team here, the Miami Dolphins. Anything to be excited about with the Dolphins, Corey?
Well, I'm going to say that I am a little bit excited for the Miami MVP for me, which is going to be Matt Breida. Now, he's not going to be an RB1 for you, but I won't fight you on if you say that he's a potential RB2 value here. Because if he can stay on the field, I see that being a realistic possibility. We talked about last episode how we just think that Jordan Howard is just a guy, right? So the Miami LVP here is going to be Devontae Parker. I talked about this to death last episode, so we don't need to do that. Check that out if you want to hear more. Just tune into last week's episode, and you can hear all about my take on Devontae Parker. My Miami sleeper, and hey, let's end with a pretty surprising note. I'm going to go with Tua, and I could never say Tua's last name. Now, look, I don't hate Gesicki in this situation. He seems like the easy answer here. So I don't hate Gesicki either. Think he could be a sleeper as well. But I'm going with Tua. I'm assuming that he'll be ready to play by midseason, which I know is a stretch. But if he's healthy, I'm telling you, Tua is going to be starting on someone's roster in your league. Someone in your dynasty league will be considered a genius by the end of the year for snagging him in your draft this year.
So, Corey, say it with me. Tagovailoa.
Tagovailoa. I avoid it at all costs, Justin.
I hear you, man. I think the Dolphins are definitely another team that I'm fading this season in general. The Breida take, though, is real solid. We talked about, you mentioned Jordan Howard last episode. We've been higher on Breida than most. I think he could be a super solid RB2 in PPR leagues.
All right, Justin, this was fun.
Yeah, man, this was awesome. I love the car ride to Maine segment. Looking forward to next week.
Yeah, so next week we'll carry on to the NFC. Just like this week, we'll alternate and give you the bold takes that you want to hear. Remember to subscribe and hit the bell, download, follow, like, comment, whatever you have to do to show some support. I'm Corey.
And I'm Justin.
And this has been the Fourth and Long Fantasy Football Show. See you next time.
Royalty-free music courtesy of Ben Sound. The views and opinions expressed on today's episode are that of the Fourth and Long Fantasy Football Show. Remember to like and subscribe.